Thank you, Sarah. Good morning, everyone, and happy Friday. It's going to be a glorious day. It's so beautiful out, and I hope everyone enjoys. We are talking a little bit about commercial real estate today. So it is the second most driest topic we can talk about behind land transactions. So I'll just share my screen and I can get kind of started here. Hey, there it is. There it is. Cool. Let me just move some things around here. Sorry.
This is a shameless plug for our new office. Shameless plug.
Yes, and thank you for mentioning that because when I reflect and I talk about the commercial transactions, I feel comfortable talking about this one. And I don't care about the information that I share. It's a transaction my wife and I went through, and that is their New Jackson's Point office. So when I refer to how to go about some of the commercial transactions, it will be sharing this building. And it's just, like I said, I don't care if people know the information. So we are going to basically talk about tips and practices. This is a topic that can go on forever and ever, and I may run over. There's a lot of slides, so I will go through it kind of quickly. Feel free to jump in with any questions at any given time, or you can wait to the end, whatever you prefer. If you see something that pops up and you want to talk about it, we can just do that then. Okay. Your clients found a commercial property. Where do you start? Usually, well, you start with a showing, and then they like it, and you kind of go from there. However, you need to establish what your clients want to do with their commercial property, and what they're allowed to do with their commercial property. Those are probably the two biggest things. And if you are diligent from the get-go, you will look like a rock star to your clients, and you will save yourself some headache. Maybe the due diligence will be a lot easier, and you might not have a deal fall apart if you are ahead of finding out what they can use their property for, if it's allowed. And so the question that I get asked quite commonly, most not just commercial and even into rural properties, et cetera, is how do I find this information? This is so crucial and very important. And if you can rock this in any township or anything that you are in, you will do extremely well, and your clients will be very pleased with you. And just for reference, because I primarily work in the Georgina area and like the York area, I'm basically going to be talking how to acquire this information from a town of Georgina standpoint. It is fairly similar with other townships, and I'll kind of get into that as well. So when we look up at a property, we go onto Geo Warehouse, and on Geo Warehouse, we use it as our friend and our guide and our tool. We pull everything on every property from Geo Warehouse, basically. Property line Geo Warehouse. Is it really your friend? Does it give you all the information? Well, we're about to find out, I guess. So you can type in the address. So this address here is 944 Lake Drive East, right? We all do this. We all click on it. This is great. Okay, awesome. We get all the information pulled up at the front from Geo. Get the owner's names, how much they paid for it, maybe a little photo, what the property type is, all that kind of stuff, the PIN numbers, etc. This is all standard information that we get on any transaction, basically. So we get a little overhead of how big the property is, and then we get into the site and the structure aspect of it. So we get into the frontage, the depth, great. Zoning. This is important for commercial transactions. The zoning on this property on Geo Warehouse says it's C1-1. Okay, that's usually C1-1 is usually like a general commercial. Usually has a lot of permitted uses. And it kind of tells you what roughly you can use the property for. So this one, I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, but it says retail and office with residential units behind. A lot of commercial properties say that on Geo Warehouse. Now, and I hope someone will chime in here. If you're looking at a commercial property for your clients and they're looking for a C1 property, which is general commercial, would you be satisfied with this information? Do you think you've done your due diligence on it? You're ready to go? Yep, they can open whatever business they want. Would you be okay with just the information that you got from Geo? If anyone, it's fine. Whatever. I'm going to say, oh, someone maybe said something in the chat. No.
No.
Yes. Awesome. I'm so glad everyone said no. Okay, great. No, because that is actually not correct at all. I know we use it for lot measurements, etc. When it comes to the zoning aspect, it might be right. You need to go further and you need to establish exactly what the zoning is. And I'm going to show you how to get there. Oh dear. There we go. So for the town of Georgina, the first thing that I do, this is the way that I do it. There's lots of ways to do it. This is definitely a good way to get started into it. So I go into the town of Georgina website. I usually just Google town of Georgina zoning bylaw 500. That's what they call it here. So when you do that, you get into the town of Georgina website and it talks about the zoning bylaws. So down at the bottom, you'll see bylaw 500, schedule A maps and schedule B maps. So the first thing that I do is that I go down into the schedule A maps. And usually most townships will have a map as a general whole township. And then they have sections broken down into, like into like subcategories of like small little villages or whatever they might be. So like in Georgina, they'll have one for Keswick, Bellhaven, Sutton, Jackson's Point, Willow Beach, Eudora, etc. So I usually start with the general one. So that's map one in this circumstance. So we click on map one. And there's the general layout of Georgina. That is all of Georgina, actually. So the very bottom would be Ravenshoe Road, which is the cutoff. So I start here. I'm going to loop back to this map at the end if I have time, and because you can use this for multiple reasons, and I'll explain how. So what we do here is we're looking at this map, and we're way up in Jackson's Point. Well, we all pretty much know our areas, or we can at least look on Google. And Jackson's Point is up at the top, right underneath where it says zone map, and that is map 6. So from here, I'm going to go back to the same site and I'm going to open up map 6. So map 6 now is showing all of Sutton Jackson's Point, what they're allowed for and what their zonings are. So you'll see OS, outdoor space, and you'll see R1s, you're going to see C1s, M1s, etc. But we're talking about this property at 944 Lake Drive East. So you can't really see it. I can't zoom in on this, but it's up there. It's kind of in the mix of the yellowish at the top. And a little blue mark up there says that property, which I just looked at the map on Geo Warehouse, that property right there. And I'm referencing back and forth with Geo and then back to this map to make sure I have the right property. It says C1-9. Why would it say C1-9 when Geo Warehouse just said it was C1-1? You might be thinking, what the heck's the difference? Well, a lot of properties in this area are site specific, and most townships they are. So we're going to go back and we're going to figure out what C1-9 is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to, again, I build rapport with all the townships. I mostly just like Georgina and like Brock and Scugog for me, wherever you're working, build rapport with the planning and the zoning departments. So here, I know Jeremy Liscombe quite well. I talk to him on a weekly basis on a minimum. So I send an email to Jeremy. I say, good morning, Jeremy, hope all is well. Could you please confirm the zoning for the following property? And what you're going to want to do here is you're going to want to give them the address, clearly, the legal description from Geo Warehouse. You're going to give him the PIN number and you're going to give him the ARN number. You're going to be polite and you're going to thank him. So that's going to be the first step into making sure that the mapping, don't trust just the maps because even at the bottom they said they are for a reference only. So we need actual information. So we are going to go and ask Jeremy if he can confirm what the zoning is for that property. Now, keep in mind, if you don't talk to some townships on a weekly or daily basis, it could take 1, 2, 3 days to even get a response. And most times it's very general. So if you get into a little bit more, you might have to ask, can you please provide the proper zoning map, or could you please provide a list or a document for permitted uses as well? So while we're waiting for Jeremy, we're going to go back and we're going to go back to the Town of Georgina website. I might make this sound complicated, but it's very simple. So we're going to go back to the Town of Georgina website, and we're going to go back to the bylaw section, which is right above the maps. Okay. So in the maps here, you're going to see all the different types of zoning in the Town of Georgina. Some are different. Some they're not just necessarily, oh, it's C or it's M or it's R. Some are different. You just have to figure out that township in particular. Once you get onto their websites, some have interactive maps and some are actual maps like the Town of Georgina one, like I just showed you. They're very simple to navigate. So we're going to go down here and we're going to find C1, which is about halfway down the page there. Okay. C1 is general commercial zone. So we know we're talking about a C1. So while we're waiting for Jeremy to confirm, we're going to go be curious and see what this C1-9 is. So we go into it and we get into C1 and it pops up this, right? So we're like, okay, great. Permitted non-residential uses. This is fantastic. So this is what a C1-1, what Gio was saying. you can pretty much do, well, if you can read the list there, you can pretty much do whatever you want in a C1 for the most part, as long as it's on this list. That's not necessarily true. So we're going to find C1-9, not just C1. It is site specific. So we scroll down and we find C1-7, C1-8, and then finally there's C1-9. So C1-9 for 944 Lake Drive East, its zoning is professional offices or business, a retail store, a studio, and accessory building structures. And then it talked about the zoning requirements for like lot frontage, parking, permitted use, commercial uses, and residential uses. So now while I'm waiting for Jeremy, the wheels are turning and I'm saying, my clients want to open a restaurant at 944 Lake Drive East. C1 said, the Geo Warehouse says that I basically can because it's C1. Now we're getting into the town of Georgina zoning maps and it's saying C1-9. So can you open a restaurant at 944 Lake Drive East without doing a minor variance or a zoning amendment, which is a whole nother topic? Probably not. And actually, no, you can't. I know that. I actually know that. So from there, we're going to go back and we're going to wait for Jeremy to confirm. Now, what you are going to do in the interim is that you're going to maybe talk to your clients and say, I don't believe that we can open a restaurant at 944 Lake Drive East. Is there anywhere that we could, any other location that may work for you, or a different town or a different building, whatever it might be? If you go ahead and you get ahead of this and you learn how to use the zoning maps and you learn how to find out the permitted uses, the bylaw 500, it is extremely dry and it takes forever to basically go through and learn it. And I just want to add one note here. To know you're actually talking with the right property, again, from the zoning map, because they are for reference only. A lot of the time, if you look at the Geo Warehouse and you're looking at the legal description, it is in the legal description. Like lot 27, plan 96 is the legal description for 944 Lake. So that is how you know when you're actually talking with the right property too. I should have mentioned that as well. Okay. So just be ahead of it, be on it. And if you're going to probably save yourself some time, because if you're looking at properties and you know the zoning is not applicable and is not correct for what your clients are looking for, you won't tie yourself up in showing it in the first place. And you might not tie yourself up into, going through a due diligence period and then finding out all this information after the fact. Because like I said, it could take 1, 2, 3, maybe even a week to hear back from some townships. So just something to keep in mind on that side. And then a couple things to consider when doing, that's the most important part to me anyway, because like I said, you save yourself time and you're really helping your clients. You're really doing a good service for them. And then things to consider when you're dealing with commercial transactions is that there is there's a couple differences, but there is a difference between the residential and commercial agreement of purchase and sale. Well, one, they're different forms. The agreement of purchase and sale for commercial is Form 500. And can anyone tell me what the main difference of the agreement of purchase and sale for residential and commercial is? Does anyone know?
HST.
I knew Anna would get it. It's the HST. So on clause number 7, HST in commercial transactions opposed to residential, when you have an option to add in that there is HST is included in or in addition to, it's not a thing on commercial. So just go through with your clients and just make sure that they are fully aware of that. We don't want any surprises after the fact, because we're just so used to in residential transactions for the most part, just adding in included in, and we're on our merry little way. So just something to take note of with that. The clauses and conditions that you're going to want to add into the agreement of purchase and sale. Obviously, we all know this, and we can talk about this till cows come home, basically. Due diligence. Always put it in, make sure you know what you're doing. And when you're due diligence, you're going to have to do what I just showed you. But you're just saving yourself some time if you do it beforehand. Okay. And again, that due diligence can span for maybe your clients won't really want a property, and maybe they said that location has to be it. And during their due diligence period, they're going to reach out to the township and they may want to have a zoning bylaw amendment to get it changed so they could put a restaurant, for example, or whatever they're looking to do. You can do that as well. So include that in your due diligence period. And of course, just to protect, yourself and your brokerage and your clients as well, you add solicitor approval in there. I think it's very important with the commercial transactions because they can get quite technical and really in depth. Especially if there's like sale of businesses or, you're anything else along those lines as well. And one of my favorite ones and the most important, but we do it in residential as well, is you can write to assign to an existing or to be formed company or corporation. So if you can actually go buy the agreement, you can go buy the property in your personal names if you would want. And if you have that in there, you can, and you don't have a corporation or a number corp or anything at this point, and you want to form one, this will give you time to go get incorporated or get a number corporation, which doesn't take very long. And then you can actually do an amendment and get that name changed. So you can close a commercial property in a corporation or a company. We see that quite often. There's tax because of tax reasons and for like personal liability. And if you look up commercial properties or even land or development stuff, you'll see that it's always in number corps. There's a lot of reasons behind that, and that's a big part of the solicitor approval. They may request that for you as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to loop back to the zoning map of all of Georgina. And now, while it's important while you're looking at properties that your clients may want, you can actually use this in your benefit. Let's say someone calls you and they said, Mike, I'm looking for a manufacturing site. Well, how the heck are you can go find a manufacturing site? You can go on Realm or Treb or whatever you want to, and you can type in, I'm looking for manufacturing. You're probably not going to pop up all the results, whether that's lacking of the keywords or they didn't put the actual zoning in the listing. So you're not going to see everything. And a lot of the times when you get into the commercial side, some of the properties that you'll deal with will never be on the market. And it may just be who you know, or if you're willing to go out and find that property for someone. So I'm going to find a random M3. So down at the bottom towards Ravenshoe, there's an M3 manufacturing site. So if that has never been listed or is not listed and my clients are looking for it, we'll do what we always do. And especially, someone like Anna, she'd probably go knock on the door and say, my clients are interested in buying this property, will you sell? That's a great way to get to it. So you can actually use these maps for both your buyers and your sellers or anyone that's looking for a property that's not necessarily for sale or has ever been for sale. So this is a great resource to use. And then like I said, you can go into any map. If you look at the left-hand side all around the lake, it goes to the different neighborhoods. You just go click on, let's say you're looking in Roach's Point or whatever, you go click in the top left corner, you'd go click on map 4, and that would give you more zoomed in option like the Sutton Jackson's Point one like this. And then you can go from there. And the same thing if your client's looking for open space or anything like that, C5s. And you just need to make sure that you know the zonings for each commercial property. And then the zoning bylaw, if you're not sure what the zoning is for on a C5, go there and search through and you'll find it exactly what they are. Okay. For the most part, without getting super complex into it, I would say that is the majority of what I wanted to show you. And I figured there'd be a lot of questions maybe. So I was hoping that I would have some time to answer those without going super past. So
Mike, I have a couple questions if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I would love to.
Number one, what period for due diligence would you suggest regarding commercial when people put the condition? Because it's different from due diligence for residential.
Yep, absolutely. So residential, what are we doing? We're doing what, 5 days to 2 weeks kind of span, 5 business days, 10 business days. So that's 2 weeks. You're going to need at least 30 days in commercial, unless you already did your homework prior. Same thing, I would still ask for it. I helped clients do a hotel several years ago. We had a 90-day condition in there. We ended up waiving it in about 65 days, but we still had the time that we needed. I think it's important to go longer. You always start with the longer transaction. If you don't need it, great. You don't want it to get stale either. But maybe use that as a negotiation tool too, and say, look, we'll cut this down to like a 60 or 30-day due diligence condition. So that was a great question. I would go for longer always. It takes a lot longer than residential.
The second question was when you mentioned like door knocking, for example, right? But I find out that most of the commercial, they usually already incorporated, right? And it's hard to find the person who is the officer of the corporation. How do you find those people? How do you contact them? Because even if I want to send a letter or something, There's no address.
That is a fantastic question. Now, geo has actually changed, Anna. So if it is in a corporation, I didn't screenshot down far enough. If it is in a corporation, if you scroll down, like where I'm basically showing you the screen now, scroll down a little bit more, and they're now in geo, and I think it just came out this year. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
You will see a mailing address for the owners. So what I do is that like if you go look at our property now, if you're on a geo and you look up 944 Lake Drive East, there's going to be a mailing address. Now, what I did is that our mailing address is the same as the address basically. So someone would have a really hard time finding me. However, if you go find a random farm or go find a random corporation or sorry, a property that has a corporation, it'll say their mailing address. They might be in Vaughan, Richmond Hill. You can find them. What I do is once I find that address, I cross-reference to see if they sold that recently. Let's say they bought the commercial building in 2000.
Okay.
Their mailing address was 123 High Street. And then you go and look up 123 High Street and they just sold it last year. Well, now you're kind of in a bit of a pickle until they update it with their corporation files. So it doesn't happen all the time. Most people update them. I think you're actually required to. So just keep that in mind, but that's how I find them.
That's great tip because I didn't know that. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Make sure you cross-reference it because I've done it for a farm recently and I went and knocked her like, yeah, we bought this off like 2 years ago. So I'm like, okay, now I'm really, well, what you can do actually is, and this has happened to circumstance. So what I did is I went and found out on Geo who the previous owner was, and then I copy and paste her name, input it into the Geo warehouse search, and then I found her new address. So that's a way to do it as well.
Mary, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Mike. I just have a couple quick questions. In your scenario with that restaurant, the people that potentially wanted a restaurant, if that street had other restaurants, that doesn't necessarily mean you can put another one in, correct?
That is a fantastic question. I'm so glad you asked that. The restaurant scenario was actually just like a made up scenario. I just think restaurants are important because there's a lot that aren't zoned for it. So I'm going to give you a prime example. Okay. So at our new office here, this is a brand new building and we are zoned for professional offices. That's all fire rated and everything. The properties beside us to the east and the west, they are basically old cottages that are commercial buildings. They are zoned C1. And someone can go into the buildings beside us that are borderline knockdown. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but they are. Ours was too. And they can go open a restaurant there. However, in a brand new building that we build that's fully fire rated and fully accessible, we are not allowed to. So just because there is an existing restaurant, let's say there's one next door, it doesn't mean you could buy this brand new building and you would just assume, which is a terrible thing to do for situations like this, you would assume you could put a restaurant. No, you can't do that. So you're going to really have to go and search and do what I showed you there. So great question. I appreciate it.
And thanks for that. And my second question would be, say it was approved as a restaurant and they bought it, could the neighboring residents, after the people have purchased the restaurant, fight that restaurant, or is it a done deal?
Now, in that scenario, is it actually zoned for a restaurant, or was it just like a legal non-conforming type of situation?
No, if it was zoned as a restaurant, but the neighboring people, for whatever reason, didn't want.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm going to, where we are, and I'm not going to give 100% confidence, but no, if it's zoned for it, there's not much that people can do. They might be able to fight it or protest or whatever. If it is zoned for it and you have permission from the township, there's not much they can do about it, from my knowledge anyways.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah, no problem. Those are really great questions. I appreciate that.
Anybody else?
Thank you. It was so informative and clean and clear.
Oh, you're very welcome, man. I know those were great questions. I appreciate that. And it's one of those things that in the last topic that I did as well, you're opening up a huge can of worms and diving into it. So it's so tough because you could talk about it and dig forever and ever. And it's just in a half an hour, it's not long enough. But it's also, if you do it any longer, you get a little cross-eyed, I think.
Brianna, go ahead.
I just have a question about knowing like who to contact and how to like figure that out. Like, is that information usually on like the town's website, or do you have to go in person? Or what's the process for knowing who to actually ask?
Yeah, good question. You could do both. Some people I used to a long time ago. I used to go into the township all the time, but pre-COVID, I was probably there like once or twice a week. But usually on their websites, Town of
Okay.
Georgia, they do have their contact information on the websites. Usually they're a little bit difficult to find. I'm working on with Samantha Simon on one right now in Oro Medonte. They had all the information on their website. Or you can call the general office and ask to be put through to zoning or planning and just get someone on the phone or leave a message. We call back and keep calling them and just say, hey, what's your email? I'm going to send it. I'd really like something in writing. It's just for my own use. I'm helping a client with a sale, something like that.
Okay. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Go ahead.
Again, speaking about how to contact, before it was easy to go to the township. However, now it's only first floors open, so it's better to book an appointment with representatives. Or what I also do, I find out the general email address.
Yep.
And then into the body, I put like regarding this and this property. And then in the subject, I say, I would like to get this kind of information. It takes longer. They may not even respond in 2 weeks. And I continue to bother them.
Yeah, Anna's right. You can do the general mailbox, which some townships, I believe it's Brock or something like that. They don't have their information online and you just have to go to a general one, like Anna said. It does take a little bit longer. And like Anna said, if you are going to go that route, you need to stay on top of them and literally bug them almost every day because it could take you 2 weeks to get a response sometimes. But like prior COVID, you could walk into the township office. No problem. Ramara was great for it. Scugog's fantastic for it. You can still do the one in Ramara actually. Town of Georgina, a lot of them are still on a hybrid, and a lot of them are in office most times. So your best is to try to either call and get an email address for someone, or just go the general route, or just keep calling until you get somebody.
Yeah, I found calling as being the most effective for me, getting a hold of people, and then you get an email contact and go from there.
Yeah, that's right. We just did that with the Oro Medonte one. I had an email and stuff like that. I thought it would take forever. I don't have much communication with those people up there. We called, got someone on the phone immediately, and they gave me an email address, and I had all the response. Well, not the response I was looking for, but I had a line of communication within probably like 24 hours with them. So great. If there's any other questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. If not, then
And you still have your hand up. Do you have another question?
Suggestion regarding the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authorities in Newmarket, if the property is subject to their, how to say, control. The best way I find out if you go physically there, it's off Davis Drive, and like there's always somebody on duty, and then this way you get answers much faster.
Yeah, that's a really good one, Anna. Thank you for that. And if you're inquiring to like in the town of Georgina or even to Lake Simcoe, and you guys need contacts, like emails directly to them, at Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority, I deal with a gentleman named Matthew. And I can have a whole list of properties, and I'll have a response probably in a couple hours, maybe the next day, with all the zoning, or sorry, all the floodplain mapping and everything for each property, because I talked to them quite a bit. So I have all direct emails for most of the properties around in the Georgina, Brock, Scugog area. So if you need those, I can always throw them on Trello, etc. So just let me know.
Perfect.
Sorry,
And
I
we'll
have a
be sharing-
question.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for that. It's just been a lot of information. Question for you is, when you obtain this information, how do you process it? What do you do next? I guess, do you send it to a town planner? Do you send it to them for their own inquiry with their architects? Like, what's next?
Yeah, that's a great question. Depending on what they're doing, like building is a total different ballgame in the aspect. So yeah, you'd want to provide all the information that you have gotten from the townships, or whatever jurisdiction has a governing body on them, and then you're going to give that to them so they can deal with probably their own planner, like Mike Smith, and he would do all this, but you're being
We don't have eggs.
saving costs. So So you can go that route. What I do is even for some of the properties I have, I've already had all the communication with people. So I put it all together in like a buyer's package, and I screenshot my emails from like the zoning, from planning, from like Simcoe, and I put it into a package and give it to my clients. So they have it all in writing themselves.
Okay, because what I guess what I was asking is a lot of times they look to us to assess the information. Obviously, our knowledge to what we are reviewing with them is limited. So do you always use a third-party planning like Mike Smith's office for helping them put the dots together? Just because when you're looking at Lake Simcoe Conservation or some other authorities, we don't always have all the expertise or know-hows to help them kind of come to that conclusion as to whether or not that property is the best fit for their need. I guess a planning office like Mike Smith's is the best way to get involved with at that point.
Yeah, for sure. If you're especially if you're looking for like a development of some sort, because that's kind of getting out of our realm as like as a realtor per se. I'm not a planner by any means. I just know how to go and find the information to get my clients in the door and get them the property acquired, right? So for anything in a development aspect, you're going to want a planner like a Mike Smith. They're going to get way more information. I'm dealing with one right now, and we actually have two consultants for different aspects. One is dealing with the planning and the zoning bylaws, etc. That's Mike Smith. We're actually using him. And then we actually have another consultant from Peterborough doing the whole environmental aspect. So
right,
gain as much information you can acquire and your clients are satisfied to acquire the property. You advise them to span outwards and, have the contacts ready, like a Mike Smith or whoever they are. I got a couple all around for environmental stuff too that I can provide. Guide them that way. We're not, that's out of our realm. I didn't go to school to be a professional planner.
Mike, do you have to pay how much it would cost? Because sometimes people are concerned about money.
Yeah, I think it's individual per property, I believe. I'll tell you one thing. I'm working on one right now with a client. It's yeah. Anyways, I'm working on one with a client right now, and to get his facility rezoned, or it's actually a zoning amendment. We're not rezoning it. It'll be site specific, and then deal with all the environmentals with Lake Simcoe and the ministry and York region. He will be, and it's quite the operation though. So keep that in mind. He's going to be over $100,000 in planning fees. So if you're just looking to build a house and all that kind of stuff, it's not going to be super crazy. And I think Mike Smith is really well and really reasonably priced, I believe. So I like him as a resource.
And I think before they even start to charge, Mike starts to charge, at least he can give you the answer if it's doable or not doable at all, or maybe at least people save some money and make a decision, right?
Yeah, I think Mike Smith for the most part. Well, the ones that I work on, usually they're a little bit bigger transactions. So like we give them a retainer up first, like up front. And I'm not going to get into that. It's kind of like Mike's personal stuff, but we give them a retainer to start working on it. But if your clients are looking for something like they want to buy a 50-acre parcel of land and it needs a minor variance or whatever, he'll say, "Oh yeah, we deal with that all the time," or "I'll look into it for an hour and I might charge you for an hourly rate," instead of jumping into like a $5,000-$10,000 fee and just saying, "No, sorry." He may give you some sort of indication that it will be doable or not doable. Okay, any other questions? All right, cool. Well, I appreciate everyone coming on this beautiful Friday. And if you have any information or any question, please let me know. I'm more than happy to help, and I can provide contacts for, especially locally. Outside of it's a little bit outside my realm, but I can find it for you. I love working on it, so just let me know.
Amazing. We'll share Mike's contact information as well. So if you want to reach out to him directly, you're more than welcome to. Amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Angelique.
I was going to say that was amazing. And if we can add maybe a list to Trello, and we can have different cards for different areas and planning departments, and people can add in their contact information, I think that would be helpful.
That is a really great idea. And I'll start doing that. And yeah, I'll put it together. I'll start working on it here this afternoon, possibly. And even just to get started with, like, let's say Town of Georgina stuff, I'll get some emails stuff put together, and so you have easier time getting in touch with these people. So great suggestion. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thanks so much, Mike. It was great.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Have a great long, or sorry, not a long weekend. Have a great weekend.
We'll take it. We'll take it. Have a great day, everyone. See you next time.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.